old man. He lived in South Wales and he died in 1980. Henry Thomas's remains were found showing. Okay, so he had apparently been sitting in like an easy chair, sort of like Mary Reese or Reeser, and he was burned from the top down. So he's in a chair, so this sounds nice and peaceful, except that it appears that he was one of the weird ones that he burned from like the neck or head down instead of it sort of starting more in the abdominal area that a lot of stuff talks about.
That's unusual for spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah.
It really is. So like Mary, like I said, he didn't completely burn up. His legs were there, as we just said. What's unusual, and you see this a lot of times in spontaneous human combustion cases, is that his legs were still clothed in socks and pants. So he had a pair of pants on and socks, and apparently the pants had burned away from, the upper portion above the knee, and they were still there. So it's almost if how you'll take pants and you'll make cut-off shorts off of them.
Yeah.
But now just leave that cut-off portion that's below the knee hanging there and nothing else. It's all sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe kind of flame retardant material or something like that.
Well, it's weird that it would burn part but not all.
Yeah, because flame retardant materials started coming on the scene late 70s, more in the 80s, and a lot more in the 90s. I mean, they got really good. They said they were flame retardant when they were still just cotton not coated in gasoline. So, but I don't know. But what happens is they find his body. He's been burned. His knees and legs are still there. They rule him death by burning. So they say he is not a case of spontaneous human combustion. Though, as I'm going to repeat a lot of times today, the internet disagrees. The internet calls this spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Why not?
I agree. Why not? Yeah.
So there you have it. 4 stories of people who seemingly have burned up where they sat, literally where they sat or laid. Consistencies between these cases is that, as we just talked about with Mary and Henry, their legs seem to escape the flames.
And the other one had one leg. The second one we talked about, what's his name?
Oh, Mr.
Dr. Bentley.
Yeah.
He was in the bathroom.
Yeah, so one of his legs was still
below the knee.
Mary had a leg left.
Yep.
Mary had a little leg.
Sometimes you'll see that forearms and hands seem to be left behind. They're not burned up.
But the furthest extremities.
Exactly. The furthest extremities are left behind. Another consistent thing is that there's usually a bad smell in the room where the body is found, and I don't mean that dirty, smoky smell, but more of a greasy, fatty, burny smell.
Kind of a barbecue smell.
Not in the nice way.
No.
Yeah.
Not in the nice way at all.
Yeah.
And the things that are around the body, we talked about this in the very beginning, things around the body like furnishings or carpets or flooring don't appear to have burned. They may be covered in soot and gross stuff, but they are not actually burned up. So it's weird because you would think that if, like we said before, if somebody's going to burn, everything else around them should go up as well.
We would think something would catch fire,
Yeah. It is a known fact, and we have to say this here, that spontaneous combustion, just the act of things spontaneously combust, is a verified fact. We know that'll happen. So things like coal dust or greasy rags or compost piles.
Things that are particularly combustible.
Yes.
Anyway.
It is really weird though when you stuff your hand into like the middle of a pile of like bark dust and it's warm, noticeably warm, and that's really weird.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing creepier. We have extra outdoor compost bins we use to make topsoil for planting beds. And I'll go out there in the middle of winter and I turn these things about once every week or two, and I will turn it and it is steaming hot in the middle. And then you put that in a hot environment, that stuff can catch fire, spontaneously combust. It's crazy, but it happens. But the crazy thing is that nothing about the human body seems to lend itself.
Don't just like, throw a match on you and let nature take care of itself. They got to put you in
a lot of heat.
They got to stuff you in an oven and apply 1,400 degrees.
14 to 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 760 to 980 degrees Celsius. That's what it takes to cremate someone when they put you in the big oven.
Right, because it turns out we're mostly water.
We are. And
water doesn't burn so great.
No, and the human body is somewhere, I always see it disputed and debated, but 70 to 80%. We're somewhere in that range. We're water.
Yeah.
Depending on how much you've had to drink that day.
True. And I always like to quote Star Trek The Next Generation, we are ugly bags of water.
That is true.
So we are big walking ugly bags of water. So we are not inherently flammable.
That's rather judgmental on their part, I think.
Those aliens were right.
Yeah, the aliens probably, But,
It was an alien that said it.
Obviously the key here is if you want to burn a body, you got to first put it in a food dryer and turn it into jerky first. Remove all the moisture. Yeah. And then it'll burn real easy.
So here's the thing, though, is that we technically speaking, I mean, we talked about putting somebody into a furnace. We can burn because the human body, while being made up of a lot of water, is also made up of a lot of fats and acids, and those kind of things burn.
Yeah, they do.
So it is possible, but think about the amount of energy that is required to completely consume a human body. I mean, you put somebody into a cremation oven, a crematorium's oven, they don't completely disintegrate. Like, there are big chunks left over, big hunks of bone.
Yes.
Whereas in these cases of spontaneous human combustion, sometimes very little bone is left over. It's very small pieces. Sad fact, I'm going to be cremated. I'm not going to be stuck in the ground. But they then stick your remains in a blender to grind it all down.
Oh, at the crematorium?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought they just took you out to the parking lot and hit you with a hammer a few times.
No, I know we're laughing at this, but the truth of the matter is they have to stick you into some industrial grade grinder to grind up the remaining bits so that you fit into your eternal
urn.
plastic bag.
Yeah, the special urn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
or plant pod.
Or plant pod. I think we talked about this before. I actually like the idea they have the thing where you can be mixed in with concrete and be used in those constructs that they put in the bottom of the ocean to help coral reefs begin.
Oh, that's cool. I like the ones you can do the pods where you plant a tree.
Oh.
And you become just fertilizer for a tree.
I like that too.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be fertilizer for something.
For sure, no matter what, unless zombies. Which is why that's why you want to be cremated.
That's why I have SimpliSafe.
Yeah. Fair enough.
They'll take your head off.
When you can't trust anyone else.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, well, we've gotten a little off track here, but one fact that I do want to hit here before we move on, and I played into it a little bit, but that is the whole everything around the body, none of it is consumed by the fire. Well, that's not entirely true.
Usually some things get scorched at least, right?
Well, the bodies that are in easy chairs, so Mary and Henry Thomas, they were sitting in a chair.
The chairs got burned quite a bit.
Those chairs got massively burned.
Yeah.
They burned up. Now, that again is the weird part, is that you think, well, if I'm in an easy chair in the 1980s, it's full of cotton batting, that thing should just go up like a Roman candle. Mm-hmm. But it didn't. A lot of it was melted and burned, but it didn't go up and start the whole house. So some things around the bodies will burn. Carpets or flooring that are underneath the remains will be scorched and to a degree burned. But again, not everything just woof.
Well, which is absurd at 14 to 1800 degrees.
Yes.
Seems like things should be catching on fire way more readily.
We don't know. That's what it takes to burn up a body, but I don't know if these fires actually achieved that intensity. I mean,
if the bodies were burnt up, I would assume, yes.
1400,
right?
yeah. But here's the deal, though. If we are mostly made of water, and let's say you're sitting in your chair, and your chair catches fire, all that heat rises. So you're already sitting on top of it. Of course, you're already on fire yourself, but you still got a fairly decent quantity of water in your body. So maybe a lot of that energy is absorbed by the water in your body, and it all just, burns.
I think what you're describing is much like a funeral pyre, where they set the body on the logs, and then that all consumes it. And you're talking you're taking into the transfer of energy and evaporation. And we're going to actually address some of the heat question that Devin brought up, and some of what you're talking about when we get into the theories, which, believe it or not, we're already at.
We're at theories?
Because a lot of this story actually is in the theory section.
Yeah.
So we should probably go ahead and do that now.
Okay.
But let's take a hot second for a word from our sponsors.
Yeah.
Support for today's show comes from Bombas, the most comfortable socks in the history of feet, going back at least 50 years. So after 2 years of research and development, Bombas has re-engineered socks with innovations that make them way more comfortable. For example, the honeycomb arch support system. They have stay-up technology that ensures that socks stay in place, but they don't leave those ugly red marks around your ankles. And super soft cotton material keeps you warm in the winter, but cool in the summer. Better yet, because the socks are the most requested item in homeless shelters, Bombas donates 1 pair of socks for every pair they sell. Over 7 million pairs so far. I have got a bunch of Bombas myself, and I wear them, well, not every day, but I wear them a hell of a lot, and they're really, really comfortable. One of the things I like about them is that I actually go a whole day, and they don't feel all sweaty and disgusting, which is a big plus for me. And now, Thinking Sideways podcast listeners can get 20% off their first order. So go to bombas.com/sideways, use the code SIDEWAYS. That's bombas.com/sideways. And use that code SIDEWAYS to get your 20% off of your first order.
Whew, that was cool, and we're back. All right, well, let's start with theory number 1, which is a truly historical theory, and that is that the cause of spontaneous human combustion is alcoholism.
Yeah.
Sure, then why haven't the three of us caught fire?
That's a very
Good
that's
point.
a very very good point. So here's the way the theory runs is that according to the bygone eras, the idea was that you would drink too much and there would be a buildup of presumably just the alcohol
Vapors,
in your system.
Exactly.
And that would make you flammable. And a lot of people in the 19th and early 20th century actually bought into this, so much so that it worked its way into literature. There's stories by Dickens, Poe, Melville, even Twain that talk about characters that die by spontaneous human combustion who were all alcoholics.
I think they were just scared of themselves.
Well, maybe Melville. The temperance movement got a hold of this idea, and they would run with it big time. Obviously, it didn't work out for them in the end, because their movement didn't really long-term last.
I was going to say, it worked out fine for a while.
Yeah, they got
Short-term.
prohibition for about 10 years or so, right?
Maybe it turned out that the instances of spontaneous human combustion didn't decline, and that was actually the downfall.
Well, but then they would just blame it on the bathtub gin.
Yeah, that's a
Because
good point.
bathtub gin was some flammable crap.
I would actually
Yeah.
like to know if prohibition really actually reduced drinking at all in America.
I think it stopped casual drinking. I think the hardcore addicts still found a way. To their detriment, they still found a way.
Well, I'm sure they did.
People still drank. It never stopped. That's why we now tax it and make a boatload of money on it through the government, because people like to drink, we'll tax it. It's just like, marijuana
It's
now.
just like drugs.
Yeah. Oh, you want to do
Prohibition
drugs?
on drugs?
Fine. We will tax the hell out of it.
Or tobacco.
Enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so the idea, though, that drinking too much is going to make you catch on fire seems a little absurd, because I have been next to a lot of people in bars who I wished would catch fire, and they did not do so. Present company excluded.
Right.
So
I've actually seen a lot of drunk people drop lit matches and cigarettes on themselves, and they still don't go up. So,
I have seen people spill hard liquor on themselves while lighting a cigarette and not catch on fire.
So I don't think this is
Even 151 rum?
God loves fools,
Yeah.
and He is protecting them apparently.
Yeah.
So this one obviously I think we can just throw it under
Agree.
the rug because it's not there.
Unless, in some cases, like, if you're drinking, like, 180 proof, flammable stuff, maybe that could be a contributing factor somehow.
Well, and
But
so,
most booze, unless it's, like, at least, 150 proof or higher, it actually isn't flammable.
that's true. That's true. And we'll talk about some of that a little later on with Robert Bailey. He's the guy who was found in the abandoned building.
The homeless guy.
So we'll talk about this alcoholism will come into play with him, and we'll flesh that out a little bit more. But let's move to theories number 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are all lots and lots of fun.
Yeah.
So
Number
good.
2 being that the cause of spontaneous human combustion is ball lightning.
Yeah. Ball lightning, which is like, the explanation for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's one of the handful of go-to explanations for things. And, the interesting thing about ball lightning, right, is that it's kind of a weird unsolved mystery in and of itself.
Yeah,
So,
like
I've
the-
actually considered covering it, but it's so
well, we taled about things.
squishy.
Yeah.
It's a squishy theory. It's a squishy story because there's really nothing concrete. I will tell you right now, for those of you who don't know, per the internet, the description of ball lightning is, and I quote, a luminous spherical object that varies from pea-sized to several meters in diameter. Though usually associated with thunderstorms, this phenomenon lasts considerably longer than the split-second flash of a lightning bolt. Many early reports claim that the ball eventually explodes, sometimes with fatal consequences, leaving behind the odor of sulfur, unquote.
So if you happen to see a little glowing ball hovering next to you, hit it with a fly swatter before it explodes.
Or run.
Oh, you can do that too.
One of the two.
Run.
Or
Yeah.
duck and cover.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. The problem with for spontaneous human combustion when you bring in ball lightning is ball lightning. Nobody's ever proved that it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Concretely, like
Yeah.
they've done it in the lab. In the outside world, people have said that they have observed ball lightning in nature. There's always these claims, but they're unsubstantiated.
I've never seen it.
And then guys scientists in the lab have tried to recreate it, and they have managed to do it, but it is momentary, like fractions of a second. It is only visible through certain spectrums with special cameras. Like it's not as if they can say, "Look, we made the ball go across the room." It's here, it's gone. It's milliseconds kind of thing. So,
Yeah, that's what electricity does because it moves at the speed of light and all that stuff.
but the hard part is that we can't even say that it's a real thing. So how can you say that that's the cause of spontaneous human combustion?
That's a
Well,
good point.
we can say it's a real thing. We just can't say that it is a real, spontaneously, naturally occurring thing.
Oh,
I will agree with that.
That's good. I guess that's a good point.
I will absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
You're going to rule that one out?
I personally do not believe that it is the cause of this, but
All right.
nobody has to rule it out if they want to hang on to it as a preferred theory. I'm
I'll
not going
just
to tell
take
you.
that
you have
ball
to.
and put it in my pocket.
There you go,
Okay.
with your other marbles. Let's move into the next theory, which is static electricity and or geomagnetic forces. So this theory is the real reason that at parties you shouldn't be cute and take a balloon and rub it on,
Also, don't go to OMSI after.
and that will not
They do
make the
that
little
too?
children love you.
They do the Edison ball or whatever, where you put
Like
your
the-
hands on it and
The static electricity makes all
Yeah.
your hair stand up.
I don't actually know.
Oh.
Maybe
Is
it's
that
the
like
Tesla ball.
like a Tesla coil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coil?
Yeah.
Not Edison. Oh, Tesla.
Yeah, don't start that rivalry up because those guys are
I know.
still fighting
I
to
know.
this day.
That reminds me, I got to tell you guys about Dr. Megavolt sometime.
Okay.
We'll do that
that's
later.
Another day.
Yeah. So basically, what this theory is it's much like ball lightning in that it's saying that for the static electricity side, it's saying that you've built up enough static charge on your body that in some way it arcs and that catches you on fire. The geomagnetic forces part, I've never really seen. Other than the words geomagnetic forces, I've never seen a good description of it, so I don't know what's going on
I think
there.
your clue there should be it's just something that people call geomatic forces. Not even, they can't even specify what, right? If the clue is it's like, it's forces, I don't know, of nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Well,
force
yeah.
is strong in this one, and zap, you're
Yeah.
on fire. Yeah, I have no idea.
The static electricity I get. I mean, that could hypothetically geomagnetic forces, magnetism, really?
I don't understand. And listen, I should have been killed by spontaneous human combustion if static electricity is the cause, because I am the person who is always reaching for something and getting shocked to the point that the snap of the arc jumping from whatever thing I'm grabbing is loud enough people around me turn and look. Like,
well,
I get shocked all the time. And
you scream, I know. But,
I do. I scream like a little girl.
I know. But, but it could be, it's not just static electricity. There have to be other factors present also. Some chemical composition in your body.
It could also be that because you are releasing your static electricity, you're not going to burn up. It's people who
retain the charge.
Yeah, it's the people that you're zapping. They're the ones who catch fire and burn up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you stay long enough to see if they catch fire?
No, Dr. Xavier taught me not to stay around after, so I always leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got my little blue friend. He teleports me away. It's all okay.
Smart move. So static, geomagnetic forces, though, that's especially weak, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move forward.
Yeah.
Ketosis is our next theory.
And actually,
I love the look on Devin's face right now.
I kind of like this one better than the ones we've had so far.
Well, they get better as they go. I stacked the deck on purpose. Ketosis is a theory that is proposed by a man named Brian J. Ford as the cause of spontaneous human combustion. And he says that it's because of this chemical process in the body, ketosis, that these people are catching on fire.
Which, by the way, is a real thing.
Oh, it's totally a real thing.
It is, yeah.
So if you don't know, ketosis is a process by which the body metabolizes it and burns fats in the body to make energy instead of burning glucose to make energy. Because you have two ways. There's basically, is it aerobic and anaerobic? Those are the two. No, it's not aerobic and anaerobic. But there's the two different methods. And they both make energy, which is, when people are fasting or they're dieting, they aren't taking in as many calories, but they're still able to function. They're getting that energy, and it's because their body is converting fats into energy through ketosis.
Yeah. And to clarify, for your body to actually survive on ketosis, you have to be eating no carbs. You have to be taking no carbs in.
Yes.
And I only know that because I've done that.
Well, and that's why I say fasting more so. Probably more so than depends on the diet.
Yeah,
but
there are diets that are
but yes.
that are actually very popular right now because you just eat eggs and bacon all the time. And
that sounds
listen, I do, and I am the bottle of health.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it does change the chemical makeup of your body.
At least temporarily.
Temporarily, but while you're in ketosis.
And it's a normal process.
Yeah.
The body does it naturally. It's how, evolutionarily speaking, it's how you got through times of famine when there wasn't all of the things around to just happily munch on, and you had to go for days or weeks on end before you had another meal. That's how you survived, and that's how a lot of creatures survive. The thing about this, though, is what Ford focuses in on is that because of this process, the body creates and then, in a way, uses acetoacetate and acetoacetic acids. I can't believe I got those right. And those contain the very unstable compounds, which are methyl and ethyl compounds. So methylene and ethylene, which are both things that are very, very flammable when they're in high concentrations.
Can be. We got to be really careful here because this is a kind of conversation that people have a lot where they're just like, well, it has monoxide in it, so it's automatically awful for you. And it's like, well, there are actually tons of kinds of monoxides that are fine for you.
Yeah.
Just because
carbon
it's
monoxide, not so much. The other ones maybe so. Okay.
Yeah.
Dihydrogen monoxide is actually quite good for you.
Yes, I have
although I will
time.
Tell you, everybody who's ever consumed that has died. So
that's true. Sooner or later, that's a good point.
And
actually, you can, a bathtub full of it can kill an entire village of people.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Anybody who doesn't know what the hell we're talking about? We're talking about water.
Yeah. It's water. H2O. Yeah.
But that's exactly, I just want to be careful as we're talking.
Yes.
It's not inherently.
The body produces this stuff in very, very minute fractions of a fractional amounts.
Yeah.
So it's not as if you are just all the water in your body has now been replaced by this potentially explosive compound. That's
Yeah.
not the way it works. But according to Ford, he says that if you have the right buildup of these compounds in your body due to ketosis, you'll start expelling gases, these methyl gases, out of your mouth primarily is where he says, and maybe out of your skin. I wasn't too clear on that part. And then if you come into contact with some kind of spark, say you're a smoker or you're around a flame, then your breath may catch on fire, or your skin where you're exuding is the word I want to use, but it's
Yeah,
not
it's
the
coming
right
out
word.
through your pores or something.
Yes, and what's
yeah.
coming out of your pores, then that might be the ignition point.
There are a ton of people who do ketosis as like a standard diet these days.
Yep.
Like tons of them. It's very popular right now. Lots of them also smoke.
Yep.
Well,
As
nobody
far as
got
I
it.
know,
So,
they're
yeah.
not just poofing up into flames all
Not
the
so
time.
far. Yeah, but still, it might be a combination of factors. It's like an airplane crash. It's not one thing.
True.
True.
God.
Very true. Well, I personally will put the stamp of pseudoscience all
Agree.
over Mr. Ford and ketosis.
Agree.
Anybody? Okay.
Well, no, unless somebody can document in the lab that there are certain people, because everybody's a little different. There might
It's
be
true.
some people out there that they go into the state that particular state and they crank out tons of these chemicals. I mean, I kind of doubt it, but it's possible.
Possible. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, some people wear silver and it tarnishes in a day, and some people will wear it for a year and it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's all just
Yeah.
the way your chemical compounds of your body react to things.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
I still discredit it, but we'll give it the slightly less discredited grade than I originally gave it.
Okay.
We'll move on now to our next theory. I believe this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is number 5, which is the subatomic particle pyroton.
Yeah.
Doesn't it sound like a really crappy superhero
I was going to
name?
say the world's tiniest superhero.
Yeah,
Or super villain, probably.
Yeah.
yeah, but is it Pyroton or Pyrotron?
Pyroton.
Pyrotron.
I've
It's Ton,
seen it
I
as
know.
Ton, so I'm going to say it's Pyroton.
Pyroton? Okay.
Everybody's now confused because we've just made up this superhero. It's not actually a superhero.
Villain.
Or super villain. Instead, it is all the creation of a man named Larry Arnold. And Larry Arnold wrote a book in 1995 called Ablaze, which was this book all about spontaneous human combustion and all these stories. And in that book, he posited the theory that there must be some subatomic particle that was flammable in certain people, and that was what was causing them to catch on fire. And that is as much description as you will ever find on the internet about this. I didn't buy his book. I couldn't find it in the library.
Oh,
but
really?
I'm pretty sure that that's the most that there is about pyroton.
Well,
So at best, it's a theoretical subatomic particle.
And there's
but
actually
at
a
worst,
lot of
it's
those.
Probably just actually
chewy.
fictional.
Yeah. Although,
Right?
some of them are kind of fictional so far. I mean, there's a lot of
them.
hypothetical ones they're still trying to actually find evidence of.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
but actually, subatomic particles do pass through our bodies all the time. So I could imagine that if some special little particle came along and some special set of circumstances, I don't know.
And it's
seems very
the
unlikely.
little subatomic particle with the dark goggles on and the red spandex with the flame pattern on it.
Yeah.
Zooming through, going, I will burn you!
Yeah.
Is that...
Kind of
Sorta?
like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So, but some.
Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Marvel movies lately. So
have you?
That's where I got
I kind of gave up on the Marvel universe. It's gotten too complicated. There's too many superheroes out there anymore.
Wait,
Boy, do I have a movie for you.
Well, really?
Deadpool?
No. The newest Avengers.
Oh yeah.
That's stupidly complex, and I haven't even...
No,
They're all
I
getting
have heard.
so overly complex. But
Yeah, at a certain point, you got to dial back the number of characters.
that having been said, shall we move
Yes,
into
please.
some things that actually seem to be more substantial
More
theories?
plausible,
Yes,
perhaps.
please.
Okay, so we've had our fun. Now
Okay,
let's talk about the real stuff.
Oh, okay. So let's see. The next thing on the list is flamethrower. Yeah, I like that one.
No, the not a flamethrower.
Joe,
Not
you
flamethrower.
penciled that in on your version of the
Oh.
script.
Oh,
It's
damn.
actually not on mine, nor I'm looking at Devin's. It's not there either. So nice try.
My handwriting is so perfect. It looks like typing. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does in crayon. So the theory is that these people are catching fire not through spontaneous human combustion, but through external heat sources like, say, smoking.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't seem to, according to the science, they don't seem to be catching on fire on their own, but it's more like I said, it's the cigarette, or sometimes it's a fireplace, or
Yeah.
a match, or a lighter, or some other flame that is causing them to burn up.
Sure, and especially back in the old days, a lot of people still had like gas lighting in their homes and stuff.
Oh
you
yeah,
know, and
wood
fireplaces.
heaters.
Yeah.
Everybody smoked everywhere. I mean, there's the world was just one giant pot of flammable materials. There was very little fire retardant in anything. And consistent factors to take into consideration in this theory is the people and their states. A lot of the people who are consumed or killed in cases of spontaneous human combustion tend to be, and that's not always, but they tend to be elderly, and they also tend to have some kind of impairment to their mobility. And that could be due to their age, or medical conditions, or obesity, or because they're using lots and lots of booze or medication.
Yeah.
Those things that are basically knocking them out or impairing their ability to get away from a fire.
Basically, what we're saying is that somebody sets themselves on fire, normal human, under normal conditions, wakes up, goes, oh crap, a fire.
Yeah.
That, for whatever reason, they are unable to put that fire out. And
Yeah.
just
Which
And-
could explain the false correlation between booze and, say, and spontaneous combustion.
And that's where
Yeah.
we're going, because
Let's
we,
do it.
we told you in the initial section about 4 individuals. We're not going to revisit their cases because it turns out they fall under this theory,
Yeah.
most of them pretty well.
because
Yeah,
it turns out Steve was withholding information. to
Damn
make
it.
the story
Always,
sound better.
the FBI and I are always withholding information.
Rad.
Correct.
Oh, and by the way, don't send me an email. I just realized I did use correlation incorrectly. I meant to say false causation. Because there's
They
correlation.
are going to light you on fire for that.
They are. They're going to
They
flame
They're
me.
going to
but-
burn you.
Because this is like something I like to tell people. You know, correlation does not equal causation,
Correct.
kids.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So let's start with Mary.
Yeah.
Mary Reeser.
Oh,
That
back
was our
to Mary.
first case.
Oh, her again.
Yes, well, it turns out that the reports and some evidence of her situation when she was found in her home in St. Petersburg, Florida, it was sent to the FBI, and they figured out that Mary had taken sleeping pills the night before, which was something she had been known to do regularly, like nightly. She took sleeping pills.
Yeah, there are some people who.
And
that.
they were pretty sure that what she had done is she had taken her sleeping pills, sitting in her chair, was having a cigarette, fell
then
asleep,
fell- yeah.
and that cigarette then caught her body on fire, and she burned up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will throw out there, because I love this, and we're in the theory section,
God,
is there is
no.
one alternate theory for what happened to Mary
Yeah.
Reeser,
Which is what?
it's the supervillain theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is that a guy named Professor Krogman of the University of Pennsylvania said that this whole thing with Mary was actually a murder.
Okay. I'll buy it.
Okay, let me finish it, Devin, before you
I know,
poo-poo
I
all
just-
over this
it's-
one. You're going to get the trots on it, I know. But he says that someone murdered her. They then took her body out of her apartment, incinerated it at a crematorium, brought the remains back to her apartment, put them where they were found for someone to then find her, and then to really sell the story, they somehow heated the doorknob of her apartment so that when the
Yeah.
landlady came by, she'd go, ouch, that's weird, it's hot, and would call the cops,
Yeah.
and they would find her remains.
You sound like you don't believe this, though.
Well,
There's a lot of issues with it.
So there's.
I like
so
this
you remember
theory.
how far-fetched Pyroton was?
Yeah.
The bad guy, the
Yeah.
supervillain. This is about 5 orders of magnitude beyond that to me.
Yeah.
as in even more improbable.
Well, it's like the stupidest way to get rid of a body I can think of. It's like, well, you're not really getting rid of it, but you take the trouble of removing the body, incinerating it. Why bring it all the way back to the crime scene?
Also,
Why not
they
throw
didn't
throw in the
incinerate it all
dumpster?
the way.
Yeah.
There was
Left
a
her leg.
leg
Yeah.
with a slipper.
Well, I'm going to guess
Yeah.
that didn't fit in the incinerator, and he was like, damn it.
Yeah.
Just let it burn off. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
It's-
And there's like no reason to even come up with a theory like this. Like
This
what?
is a really flamingly
This is-
dumb theory.
It is needlessly
Yeah.
complicated. I
It
don't
is.
understand.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It does boggle the mind that some murderer would do something like this. It makes no sense to me at all.
It makes
Yeah.
no sense. So that's
Yeah.
I put it in here because it's a fun little bit.
Yeah.
Let's move
But
to the-
I'm going to
oh,
give you
I'm sorry.
back to Murder 101. Don't do anything when you kill somebody. If you're trying to cover it up, make it look like not a murder, don't do anything to attract a lot of undue attention to the case, like a body spontaneously just catching fire all by itself. That gets a lot of people really interested in looking into it. You
Yeah.
don't want to do that. You don't want to draw attention
Probably
to your
not.
murder. Yeah.
Probably
Yeah,
Yeah.
my final problem with this is if you've got the body, you've got it cremated, well, just let her disappear.
Toss it, put it in a dumpster,
Well, if
you
you
know?
really do feel like you need to bring some kind of mystery to it, it's real easy for the mystery to be she just disappeared
See,
one day.
this is much like Joe brings up this theory of, well, they wanted to leave a mystery for the ages, so
Yeah.
they did this. That's one of the things you always go to, and I feel like this is just so far
So
and
much work,
beyond.
yeah.
No,
Honestly, we should leave it
Sorry.
behind.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's
Yeah.
fun, but it's just so cuckooville. Let's talk about John Bentley. He was victim number 2 that we talked about.
Yeah.
The investigators figured out that probably what happened to Mr. Bentley was that, as we said before, he was known to smoke a pipe, and he was wearing a robe, and they believe that what he did is he inadvertently spilled hot ashes from his pipe onto his bathrobe
And lit it on fire.
and lit it on fire, at which point he ran to the bathroom to get a pitcher of water to put himself out.
Oh, by the way, a word of wisdom here. When your clothes are on fire, you don't want to run. You don't want to run. Yeah.
Especially don't want to keep wearing them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. You're wearing
It's a
freaking-
bathrobe.
It's a bathrobe. Shrug it off,
Yeah.
dude.
That's
don't run.
that's the
I mean,
weird thing here, but
Yeah.
they say that he must have done this based on the broken remains of what is believed to be a water pitcher in the bathroom, along with the fact that there were remnants of his robe which were burnt, still smoldering in the bathroom, and they were next to the hole where the body had burned into the floor, and he was known to walk around in his robe.
Oh.
And he apparently always had a box or a book of matches in his pocket, which are pipe smokers. If you don't know this, smoking a pipe requires wooden matches.
Yeah.
Because you have
Takes
to
a
do
while
a
to light
lot
'em.
of drawing
Yeah.
on a pipe like that to get the tobacco actually cooking correctly or stovepiping correctly. Stovepiping is
it
not the technical term, but you can't use paper matches.
No, but you could use a lighter or a toke.
Correct, but I
But-
believe that in this day and age, in the 60s, when
It's
he
popular
went,
to just
it
use-
would just
yeah.
be to use matches. My grandfather used to smoke a pipe, so this is how I know this. I used to watch my